Welcome to this video. This video is the second part of developing expense tracker application. In this video, we are going to talk about how to connect this application to Google Sheets and use it as our database. First, we need to do some preparations inside the Google and Google Sheets. First, you need to search for Google Sheets API console. And then in the console.developers.google.com, you go to this page, Google Sheets API. And if it is not enabled, you have to enable this service. And then you go to the search and you search for Google Drive. And you select Google Drive API. And this one also, if it is not enabled, you have to enable this one. And then you come to this page. In this page, you go to credentials and then you go to create credentials and select the service account. In the service account, you can name this any name you want, for example, expense tracker, and then you click on create and then you click on done. And here in the service account section, you can see your account that is created. You click on the account and here you go to keys. In this tab, you add the key and you create new key. And you select JSON and you click on create. And you need to download this file. And if you open this file, you can see that it has all the information you need to connect to the Google Sheets through your application. You need to keep this file. We're going to use the details and contents of the file later. There is one more step. You just need to copy this email that is created for you, and then you go to Google Sheets. Or you can go to Google Drive and then create a sheet with any name. And then you click on share. When you click on share, in the first box, you put the email that you copied. You select this email and you click on the text box to untick and you share. And inside the file, you can put your headers, grocery, gas, and utility. Now let's go back to our application. In the main file at the top, before our build function, we need to set some variables. Here you open the JSON file that you downloaded before and you copy all the details and you create a variable. For example, you call it credentials. And then you paste your information here from the JSON file. We also need the ID of your Google Sheets that you created. For example, this one that I created. In the address bar, you can see the address of these sheets. For example, docs.google.com/spreadsheets/d/ After the slash, this is the ID of the file. So you copy this one, only the ID between two slash. And inside the application, you create a new variable. We call it, for example, sheet ID. And you save it as a string. And then as a test, we need to test this connection to see if the connection is available or not. We are going to create the init state function. Inside the init state, we're going to connect to the sheet and insert some value to test if it works or not. For the connection to Google Sheets, we are going to use a plugin. We need to use G-Sheets plugin from pub.dev. So we are going to go to installing and we get the dependencies and we go to pubspec.yaml and we install it here, and then we're going to import it. Now inside the init state we need to define a variable, and inside the init state we are going to make the connection and enter a value to one of the cells in the Google Sheets. In this code, we created a G Sheets, and then we provided our credentials, and then we specified the spreadsheet by assigning the ID to sheet ID, and then we specified which sheet we need to access. In this case, sheet 1. In your Google Sheet, you have sheets at the bottom. Sheet 1, you may have sheet 2, you may have sheet 3. You need to specify which sheet you need to access. And then we are going to access the sheet .values .insert value. We specify what the value is, in this case a string with content test, and then we are going to insert it in which column and which row. And notice that this is await function, and if you are not familiar with the await function, you can watch this video at the top right corner. And this function needs to be async, but init state cannot be async function, so we need to have this as a separate function. We are going to create another function, and we need to have this one as async, and we need to call this function inside the init state. By the way, you can see that some words have the underline green color underline, and this is just saying that it is typo. You can disable this by going to File, Settings, and at the search you can write typo, and in the inspection at the bottom you can disable this one, typo, and click OK. Now that we have this code, let's run this code and see if it adds the value we wanted to the Google Sheets. Just check the column 1 and row 5, this one. You can check the cell in column 1 and row 5 and see when the application is run. You can see test appears here. So that means the connection between our application and the Google Sheets is established and it works. Now what we want to do is, when the user clicks on submit, we need to take the value of each text field and we need to add them to our database. For example, for grocery text field, we need to add it under grocery, and gas and utility are the same. And next time, for example, when the user enters new value, we need to get the last value and we add the new value to it, and we save the new value here. For example, if the utility is now 20, now the user enters 5. We need to get 20 and then we plus 5, and the total 25, we put it in this cell 25. That's what we're going to do when the user clicks submit. Let's go to the button that we have, and on pressed we are going to call our function, this function, and we are going to pass 3 parameters. For example, we are going to pass grocery, we are going to pass gas, and we are going to pass bill. And then for each text field, we need to have a controller to get the value that user entered. For the grocery, we already have one. Okay, now we go to our text fields. This one is set to controller grocery. The next one, we need to set it to gas. And the last one, we need to set it to bills. And when we call the function, when the user press the submit button, we are going to call first check, and then we need to pass our parameters. What are the parameters for this function? We need to have grocery, which is our controller dot text, gas dot text, and bills dot text. We are going to pass these 3 parameters to our function. Now inside the function, we don't need it in its state anymore. Inside the function, we get 3 values, and then we need to get the value of grocery. What is the current value of grocery in our database? Because it's asynchronous operation, we need to have a future, the future of type string. Okay, for each value, first we get the value that we have currently in the database, and we wait for the operation to finish, and we save it in the string. Because first it is future string, we need to have the string. And then we calculate the total of the current value in the database plus the one that user has entered. And then we insert the value of total in the column 1, row 2, for example, for grocery. And we need to convert this value that we get from database to int, because it is string first, but we need to have integer to be able to add them together. And same thing also with the value that is passed from text field. Now let's see how this works. We have the value of grocery, gas, and utility here. Let's make this one 40, and this one 50, and this one 60. And inside our text field, you can see that we get the error. We're going to fix that later. In the grocery, we add 10. In the gas, we add 10. And utility bill, we add 10. You can check the values here as I tap the button. 50, 60, 70. Now this adds the value in the text field to the values that are currently in the database. Let's try 1, 2, and 3. 51, 62, 73. Now let's move to the Analyze section. In the Analyze section, first we need to get all the values in the database, and then when we have the values, we need to create a pie chart. We're going to use the pie chart in the pub.dev. Let's get the dependency and install it in the pubspec.yaml file. And the first thing we need is the same credential and sheet ID. And then for the pie chart, we need to have numbers as double. So we're going to define double grocery, double gas, and double bills. And we need to have a map string to double. If we take a look at the pie chart, we can see that when we define the variables, we need to have map to map the string to double. For each string, we have a value, and then we call pie chart and we provide the map. So in this case, we are defining this map, and we need to populate this map with the value of our 3 variables in the database. So let's have a init state, and inside the init state we call get all values. First we need to connect and specify the credentials, sheet ID, and the sheet title. So I'm going to take these from main.dart, and this is going to be a synchronous function, and we're going to need to import the gsheets. We need to get the value for each entries in our database. We define string. Okay, in this function I connected to gstring, and for each one of the values in our database I get the values and store them in a string variable, and then I convert the string to double, and then I create my data map. In the build function we are going to have a scaffold, and inside the scaffold we're going to have a body that is a container, and inside the container we're going to have a child as center, and inside that we have a child which is pie chart, and we're going to provide data map and we provide our variable. Let's go to the drawer and click on Analyze. You can see that we get an error. The values that are passed to the pie chart are null or empty. When we come here, we can see that when the analyze page starts, it goes to init state and it calls get all values. Get all values is called and it connects to the database to get the values and it creates the data map. And then it goes straight to scaffold. Because we have awaits and we have asynchronous function, this creation of my data map and going to the build is not going to wait for this operation. So we need a way to check if the values are empty or not before we build our screen. So before the scaffold, we are going to check if my data map is not null, then we are going to create and draw the scaffold and pie chart. Otherwise, we are going to have scaffold and in the body we are going to have a container with a child. We put center and inside that as a child we are going to have circular progress indicator. And also inside the function we can put all the creation of data map inside set state. Let's run this again. We go to the drawer and we click on analyze. You can see that first we see the circular progress indicator, and then when we have all the values from the database, the pie chart is shown on the screen. So that was it for this video. I hope it was useful. The code is in the video description. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.